6 more players, including an absolute stud wide receiver. His name is Isaiah Neyor. And according to Dane Brugler, who's one of the most respected voices in rookie analysis, Isaiah Neyor may be the most physically gifted athlete in the 2025 draft class. And the 49ers were able to add him as an undrafted free agent. Here's the list of undrafted free agents whom the 49ers have signed so far. And we're going to go through this list and break down these players, including Isaiah Neyor. I've got the athletic numbers on him, and we can talk about why he didn't go drafted, how he might be able to make the 49ers team, how he can leave an impact for San Francisco, a team that entered this weekend looking to add at the receiver position. So there are openings there, and there's some uncertainty moving forward on a couple fronts. Brandon Ayuk and Demarcus Robinson, a couple veterans for the 49ers who will be seeing some time at the X receiver position when they are available this season. But anyway, the undrafted free agents added so far by the 49ers. Corey Kiner was funny because I'm sitting in the press conference with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and the Corey Kiner news. The 49ers had signed the Cincinnati running back came through. Corey Kiner was in our mock draft, if you remember. I used the very last draft pick on him. 49ers, not much of a difference except for the team control. They don't use anything. They sign him as an undrafted free agent right after the end of that 7th round. But Corey Kiner signed with the 49ers, and I said, it sounds like you guys just signed a running back. And John goes, who? And I said, Kiner. And he's like, oh, yeah, I already knew that we signed him. And then Kyle said, did we sign anybody else? And he said that with a smile. It was a joke. The end of draft press conference is funny because you would think that Kyle and John would be their most relaxed selves after 3 days of the draft. It's finally over. But undrafted free agency is just getting started when the draft ends. The guys who weren't picked have a chance to choose which team they sign with, but based on who offers them a contract, obviously. So when the draft ends, the GM and the coach, they're already in UDFA mode. They want to get their undrafted free agent signed, but they do have to do the press conference when the draft ends. So Kyle and John always kind of rush through that final press conference. And it's funny because some of the signing news is coming through as they're sitting up there, and I'm having to tell them, oh, yeah, you just finalized the deal with Corey Kiner. Kyle Shanahan, did we sign anybody else? I got to get back upstairs. So that's what happened yesterday. Kiner from Cincinnati, that came through as we were sitting down in the press conference. Then came Stone Blanton, Mississippi State linebacker. $92,000 guaranteed for Stone Blanton. It's not a guarantee that he's going to make the team, but it's just a nice gesture from the 49ers. Usually the guaranteed money reflects the strength of the prospect. Stone Blanton had 124 tackles last season at Mississippi State. Then there's Isaiah Neyor from Nebraska, maybe the most physically gifted athlete in this class. We're going to get into that. Just let's get through the rest of this list. Jakob Robinson, cornerback out of BYU. I would say more of a nickel back. He's a little bit taller than Upton Stout. He's about 5'10", 5'11", but still a slighter frame, probably going to be an inside cornerback at this next level, but also really good athletic profile for Jakob Robinson. Then there's Sebastian Valdez, the defensive tackle out of Washington, really good athlete. We'll take a look at his relative athletic score, and an offensive lineman, a guard out of Colorado State, Drew Moss. All right, what's all this hype about Isaiah Neyor? Well, to start that, we got to take a look at the relative athletic score because it is impressive. Nebraska receiver by way of Texas. Injuries derailed his time at Texas. He was supposed to be a big-time weapon for Quinn Ewers at Texas. Then he ended up going to Nebraska and actually delivered some big plays this past season. But I mean, this is what we have to focus on because this is what Dane Brugler was talking about when he said that this might be the most physically gifted athlete in the 2025 class. He's 6'4". He's near 220. He runs a 4.40 40. It's not a 4.48 or a 4.49. This is a 4.40 40. That is blazing fast, especially at that height and weight combination. 10-yard split's really good. It obviously takes him a little longer to get going. You don't expect the 6'4", 220 guys to have the best 10-yard splits. That they have the longer strides, so they're not going to hit full speed until the 20, 30, maybe even the 40-yard mark. I'm sure that Isaiah Neyer's 100-yard dash time would be really nice. They obviously don't measure that at the NFL Combine. But, I mean, everything here is solid. A 1.56, 10-yard split, and then downright great 40-yard dash at 4.40. The agility is not elite, but it's still good. And, again, that's what you would expect out of somebody who's 6'4", 218. You're constantly balancing that size and that speed, right? It's really hard to have both. And the explosion is elite. 38-inch vertical at 6'4". So this guy, I mean, the catch radius is supposedly awesome for Isaiah Neyor. I've watched some highlights. I'm going to delve into the greater load of film. But when I see this, when I see 34.38-inch arms, combined with the height, combined with the 38-inch vertical, a broad jump of over 11 feet. Yes, this might be the most gifted athlete in the entire class. That's what Dane Brugler wrote on The Beast, and we really do value Dane's insight on this because he analyzes all of these prospects, right? He goes through, I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of guys on an annual basis. What Dane is doing is really, really impressive. So let's actually take a little bit of a look at Dane's full assessment of Isaiah Neyor because he gives the pluses and he gives the minuses. And I think that it's just really, really intriguing that the 49ers have added this guy to their receiving room with this type of ability after the draft has ended. So this is from Dane Brugler on Isaiah Neyor. One-year starter at Nebraska, played 96% of his snaps out wide, and he's a late bloomer. Was expected to become a playmaking weapon for Quinn Ewers at Texas, but knee injuries sidetracked that plan. But he resurfaced in Lincoln at Nebraska, and he had 121 receiving yards in the season opener. So seemed like he was a quick learner in the new system. But this is what Dane said. Here's the negative on Isaiah Neyor. He was, quote unquote, allergic to consistency. So you've got this, I mean, just this epic set of physical tools, but the guy hasn't been consistent yet on the football field. He's an imposing physical specimen with the elite combination of height, weight, and explosive speed to be a mismatch. His catch radius is tremendous, especially against air, but he doesn't do enough with his frame to keep smaller cornerbacks from challenging the catch point. So he's got to learn how to use all of his tremendous physical gifts. But the testing, again, is insanely impressive for Isaiah Neyor. Statistically, this past season at Nebraska, delivered 34 catches for 455 yards. He was at Wyoming before he was at Texas. His biggest season was in 2021 when he played 13 games, started all of them, 44 catches, 878 yards. That was 20 yards per catch at Wyoming. So, he started to spend 12 touchdowns in 44 catches at Wyoming. So, I mean, the guy was a weapon at Wyoming, transferred to Texas, only played one game, one catch for 14 yards. It was the knee injuries that limited him there, made it out to Nebraska, has yet to fully harness at any level. Wyoming, Texas, or Nebraska has yet to fully harness the gifts that we have showcased physically. But as an undrafted free agent, there's very little commitment from the 49ers, and they can see what they can get out of Isaiah Neyor. I think that the receiver position for San Francisco is the one that's almost most up in air because of the Ayuk injury and the potential DeMarcus Robinson suspension. We zoom in on the depth chart here, and I'm gonna have a big depth chart breakdown. You guys should definitely have the alarm bell notification and the subscription set on your channel for that, maybe a little bit later today. But Ayuk is hurt. He might not be back for week one. DeMarcus Robinson might be suspended. So then that's only 4 receivers right here on the 53-man projection for me right now. That means the 49ers are going to have to dip in talent from this side, from the right side of this of this depth chart. On the left side, you got Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, Jordan Watkins, the draftee out of Ole Miss, and Jacob Cowing. On the right side now, you've got Tariq Owens, who made a lot of strides last year. There may be an opportunity for him. We've talked about that over this offseason. You have Isaiah Neyor. Junior Bergen is not really in this mix, the 7th-round pick, because they're looking at him specifically as a punt returner. So maybe I should even, move Junior Bergen out of the receiver room and put him as depth on special teams as a returner down here because they've got Cowing, Pearsall. Obviously, they have Trent Taylor still on the team. But I think Junior Bergen, if he earns a spot on this team coming out of Montana, it's going to be as a punt returner, not a receiver. And then they have Taylor, Gage, and Isaiah Hodgins. But I think that the two receivers, the young guys who are truly knocking on the door of a role, just based on their traits, based on the potential, are Tariq Owens and Isaiah Neyor, whom the 49ers just signed as an undrafted free agent. So this is really, really intriguing for the 49ers. You typically do not see this caliber of athlete available in undrafted free agency. But because of a set of circumstances that were very unfortunate for Isaiah Neyor with the transfers and the injury and the inability to really get off the ground at Texas, he was undrafted, and the 49ers now may stand to benefit from that. We're going to get our first look at him during the Rookie Pro Day that's going to be coming up not this week, but the next for the 49ers. All right, let's go through some of the other 49ers undrafted free agents. Zooming out, here's the list. We've done Neyor. Why don't we go to Sebastian Valdez? Valdez is a defensive tackle out of Washington. Defensive tackle out of Washington who has a really, really nice relative athletic score as well. Late in the draft, and we saw this with Connor Colby for the 49ers. We saw it with several players over 2024 and 2025. But I think it's especially effective way of pursuing things late in the draft, and I think it's very R&D based. You look at the relative athletic scores. You take a look at how good of an athlete is this guy compared to the rest of the pool, because there are a lot of players to evaluate. And if you're trying to unearth talent, even if the player is raw to the point where he wasn't drafted, if there are flaws in his game on the field, you can find specific traits physically that you think you can work with and develop. Because at a certain point, you just need the building material. You just need the clay to mold. And as you probably have been able to tell watching my coverage of this draft, I mean, we went through a lot of relative athletic scores yesterday. This is CJ West's. This is Nick Martin's. And as you get to the overall scores up here, these are anything in green is going to be really good. Most of the 49ers relative athletic scores are excellent. Between West, Watkins, 8.79. There was a bad one here with Jordan James, but they saw him in person and thought that his burst was actually better than the numbers might indicate. Marquise Siegel's relative athletic score was awesome. Siegel actually, speaking of burst, had the fastest time in the first 5 yards of his 40-yard dash. The 49ers, the second straight season, have drafted the player who had the fastest time in the first 5 yards of his 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. Marcus Siegel this year was at 15.6 miles per hour over the first 5 yards. Jacob Cowing last year had the fastest 5-yard split at the Combine. So obviously the 49ers have a type when it comes to explosiveness. I've got some relative athletic score comps, and then we move on to Isaiah Neyor, really good relative athletic score, and finally to Sebastian Valdez, the defensive tackle whom the 49ers have added as an undrafted free agent. 9.28 is really, really good. So there obviously is something here to work with if you're the 49ers at that defensive tackle spot. And this was a really deep tackle class. So you can't just scoff at somebody that went undrafted in this class. The 49ers were able to add Sebastian Valdez, and they're able to add him late. They're after the 7th round of the NFL draft. So you look at him and you see decent size. He's not huge. This is not going to be a 320 or 330-pound defensive tackle like Alfred Collins, but it's going to be 6'3", 301 with great speed, the 40-yard dash right around 5 seconds, about DJ Jones-like speed, and really, really good explosion coming out of the gate on the right side, 1.728. Now, it's funny, his vertical jump and his broad jump aren't great. They're just okay. but he could really move speed-wise, and he's very agile. So it seems like this is going to be more of a finesse defensive tackle until you look at the bench, and he's putting up 34 reps, which is really good. It's just it's an unusual combination of traits here. Normally, if the 10-yard split is really good and the bench is really good, the vertical jump and the broad jump are going to be a little bit better. In this case, we see the agility, the speed, the explosion, not as great for Sebastian Valdez, but definitely moldable clay for the 49ers to work with at that defensive tackle position. Moving on, why don't we go to Jakob Robinson? This is the DB out of BYU, cornerback for BYU. Not a big guy, 5'10", so he's a little bit bigger than Upton Stout. But the 49ers, this has been a very familiar profile that the 49ers have sought over the course of this draft. DBs, or just back seven players in general, if we include Nick Martin, who are red in the size grade. So it will say poor in the size grade because they're not very big, but the explosiveness and the speed is really good. So that's what Jakob Robinson is all about, right? 4.39 speed. One of the fastest guys in the 49ers. Marquise Siegel's 4.37. Talk about his 5-yard time at the NFL Combine being the fastest. Well, somebody like Jakob Robinson, not quite as fast. Takes him a little bit longer to get going, as you can see the difference between the 10-yard split and the 40-yard dash, but he can certainly move. I could take away the text title here so you could see the bottom. The broad jump over 10 feet, vertical jump nearly 39 inches. They found another shorter, extremely explosive DB. And I think that he's 5'10", 181. So I think he's even a little bit skinnier probably than somebody like Upton Stout, who's only 5'8", but has 180 pounds. So there's a little more stout. There's a little more stoutness to his frame, pun intended. So here, Jakob Robinson may have to fill out a little bit to be able to play at the NFL level, especially as physically as the 49ers want him to. He's a little slighter of frame, and that's why he went as an undrafted free agent. But the 49ers will try to develop his cover skills. They'll try to see if he could play nickel at the NFL level, and he'll be thrust into that competition for San Francisco in the defensive backfield. A competition that, by the way, here you have look at it, is very, very crowded. A lot of new names. I'm going to come out with my 53-man projection a little bit later today when I'm back up in San Francisco after I check out of this hotel in Santa Clara. And we're going to go through all of these additions. Everybody that's color-coded in either teal or green is a new player to the 49ers this offseason. And this is the DB room that I'm highlighting right here. Yellow is a core piece. So Diamaro Lenore is the leader of that room, but then Upton Stout is in there. You have these free agents highlighted in teal between Trey Brown, Saran Neal, move over to safety, Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. Obviously, Marquise Siegel at the safety position, but here's where Jakob Robinson slots in. Outside the 53-man projection, alongside Trey Tomlinson, the waiver pickup from the Rams. But he's going to be trying to knock on the door of either trying to develop with the 49ers this year, or obviously he's going to be doing that the whole time, but he'll be trying to knock on the door of becoming a trusted agent for the 49ers on the inside of this 53-man roster. Who do we have next? Corey Kiner. This one will be good. Corey Kiner. Is this a poor man's Jordan James? Mike, do you have Corey Kiner's relative athletic score? It'd be awesome if you do. I don't currently have it. I know that Corey Kiner is not a burner. I know that Jordan James is not a burner, the running back whom the 49ers selected in the 5th round. Here's Jordan James' relative athletic score. This was the worst relative athletic score the 49ers unearthed amongst their 11 draft picks, by the way. But Tariq Ahmad, who's the 49ers, one of the main personnel guys yesterday, said that when they went and saw Jordan James at Oregon's Pro Day, he showcased the burst that surprised the 49ers. So you see here the 10-yard split is concerning. The 20-yard split and the 40-yard dash are okay. We see on tape that he's not busting a lot of 20-plus yard runs. He only 3 of them, but he is awesome in between 10 and 20 yards. He's just consistent. He's a reliable back, and the burst was better than the 49ers thought it was just based on the testing. Meanwhile, you got a guy like Corey Kiner, who has a similar relative athletic score. Have a look at this from Corey Kiner. Mike was just kind enough to share it with us. Doesn't look all too different, right? It's in the red. 4.5740 here. Let's go back. I just erased Jordan James, unfortunately. But here, 4.5740, just about 200ths of a second off of Jordan James's 4.55 time. The 10-yard split at 1.62 isn't great. The 20-yard split at 2.70 isn't great. The agility grade isn't great. We don't have explosiveness testing information. The size, 5'8", 209. So he's a shorter back, stockier back, kind of like Jordan James, who's a tough running back who's going to run through people. I think that if you look at Corey Kiner, whom the 49ers added from Cincinnati at an undrafted free agency, I think that you could say that he's like a poor man's Jordan James. The 49ers wanted a tough runner, and Corey Kiner forced 84 missed tackles last year. 84. Which means that he was in the top 10 of all FBS running backs in forcing missed tackles. The guy, the relative athletic score might not be good, but the guy just knows how to run. He's a good running back. Jordan James, the relative athletic score might not be good, but he just knows how to run. I mean, it's funny because Isaac Guerendo, elite relative athletic score. The 49ers picked him up, and that's worked out for San Francisco, assuming that he can stay healthy moving forward. But he's a really explosive, dynamic threat out of the backfield working as a receiver. And I think that the relative athletic score really indicated or corroborated the belief that he could be that for the 49ers. These guys right here, yes, the 49ers want good receivers coming out of the backfield, but at the very least, they need quality depth at the running back position. And they need somebody who is not going to cough up the football. They need somebody who can break a few tackles, who can keep the line moving in case Christian McCaffrey and Isaac Guerendo's unavailable. So Jordan James fits that role, and I think that they believe that as they're stacking depth in the room, Corey Kiner does as well. You know, a note on Jordan James, 0 fumbles over his college career. Isn't that something? So, and I think Corey Kiner has some good ball security as well. He was in my mock draft for a reason in that 7th round. I thought that the 49ers, who set up a private workout for him later in the draft process, really did like his reliability, really did like the way that he runs the football. And it turns out that's true because Corey Kiner is now a San Francisco 49er. Take a look at how deep the running back room is, by the way. You've got McCaffrey, Guerendo, Jordan James. Are they going to carry 4 on the 53? We'll see. If they do, well, it's going to be a competition between Kiner, Patrick Taylor Jr., and Israel Abanikanda, and I think that Kiner can win that competition. If the 49ers didn't believe so, they would not have added him as an undrafted free agent. Then there is Drew Moss. This is a guard out of Colorado. This is going to be a developmental prospect. I project him to be on the practice squad. You know, I'm really trying to figure out what they're going to do at the offensive line because there's, as you can tell, there's one hole remaining on this roster. A red cell means there's a hole. This used to be littered with holes. I mean, the entire defense, it seemed that 6 of the starting positions on defense were holes entering the draft, especially along the defensive line. Well, they filled them in with these signees. Now the one hole is at swing tackle. Do the 49ers sign a veteran? Maybe somebody like Jedrick Willis? Do the 49ers entrust Spencer Burford with that swing tackle role? Where does Connor Colby, the 7th round pick, fit in? I know he's going to be a guard. Is he going to make that 53-man roster? I haven't projected to make that roster. And I think that, you know, Drew Moss is also a guard, so he'll be competing with Connor Colby. I would expect Colby to win that job. And, you know, speaking of really good relative athletic scores, take a look at Colby's. I know that he was late in the 7th round yesterday, so we didn't have much of a chance to delve in and talk about him. But this is – people feel that Jared Kingston was the one that got away from the 49ers offensive line last year. Look where Connor Colby stacks up. Really good score compared to Kingston's, and a little bit heavier, 3 pounds heavier, but he's taller. He's and when we saw the height, we were like, oh, maybe this guy is versatile enough to play some tackle, because he did play some tackle at Iowa. He was at right tackle, left guard, and right guard. But no, the arms are 32 inches, just about the same length as Jared Kingston's. who ended up with the Carolina Panthers. But, I mean, fast 40, fast 20, fast 10-yard split, decent vertical. And the one that I love to look at is the short shuttle. That's where Jared Kingston really stood out with the 4.47. I know that's why fans were disappointed that the 49ers couldn't hold on to Jared Kingston. Connor Colby is at a 4.63. And if you can get at 4.6 or better, that's really, really solid for an offensive lineman. And that is actually very correlated to success along the offensive line, is that 4.6 short shuttle or better. Sorry, I think I was blocking it. Now you guys can see it a little bit more clearly. Finally, there was Stone Blanton, who is a linebacker out of Mississippi State. 49ers signed him as well. If you want to see where Stone Blanton might fit, I will toss that into the screen right now. I just lost my depth chart. This is my problem when I'm not actually in the studio back at home. I don't have the extra monitor, so it's a lot. I'm dealing with like 25 windows at once as I'm talking to you guys here. Stone Blanton, linebacker. That's another crowded room. My cursor's over him right here. So I've got a projection of 6 guys making the 53. They signed Gifford, Tatum Bethune in his second year. Nick Martin, I project as a starter for San Francisco. That's all great for the 49ers. But then you've got Curtis Robinson coming off the ACL, Deshaun White, who was with the practice squad last year, and Stone Blanton. Malik Mustapha's mom, we got a little 49ers update here. I just got it from Mike. Posted on Twitter, don't be surprised if it's more like week 1, but hoping for mini camp. I think she means training camp because mini camp is coming up soon. And Malik Mustapha, I don't even know if he'd be eligible for mini camp, but because he's not a rookie anymore. But if Malik is back for training camp, I mean, coming from the player, you typically expect the player to be, and his family to be, more optimistic on the return timeline. That would mean that Malik Mustapha is Superman. Tore his ACL January 5th against the Arizona Cardinals in the 49ers season finale. 9 months, and we have a 9 to 12-month expectation for the return to play from ACL, unless you're Jerry Rice. Apparently, Malik Mustapha is already running and jumping. His mom is not happy with the around mid-season expectation that's floating around out there. I'm just reading these tweets that Mike is putting out there. I'll put them up on the screen if you guys want to see them. This is actually pretty entertaining. So, and this could give 49ers fans something to be optimistic about. But the 9-month timeline from January 5th would be the start of September. And that would be the start of the regular season. And if the 49ers play it safe, which I think a lot of people would advocate that they do, they might sit Malik Mustapha at the start of the regular season. And if you sit him at the start of the season, you don't want him to take a roster spot, so you put him on PUP, physically unable to perform. That's a minimum of 4 games missed at the start of the years. So I think if we assign a probability to this, week 5 would be the most likely return for Malik Mustapha based on all that we're hearing here. But I think it's also too early because we haven't even spoken to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch about this. So I think it's a little too early to know anything in more certainty than that. Here, I've got the actual message from Malik Mustapha's mom up on social media. So this was one of the tweets. Don't be surprised if it's more like week 1, but hoping for minicamp. Stay faithful. And then another one here, Brad at the SF Niners goes ahead and posts, Malik Mustapha is expected to be out until his midseason after re-injuring his ACL that required surgery. And then the quote here is, damn, are you serious? I just saw him running and jumping last week. Now, running and jumping is different than cutting and playing in an NFL game. So obviously he still has some rehab to go, but there's more optimism coming from Malik Mustapha's camp than there is from some of these initial reports. I think it was Adam Schefter who might have said he's going to miss some time for sure at the start of the year. And then I don't know if anybody connected to the situation actually said midseason. I don't know if that was just aggregators speculating after the fact, but There's a reason why the 49ers added safeties with starting experience right here. Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. If Mustapha's not available for week 1, I think Pinnock is likely to start. And then obviously they drafted Marquise Siegel. I just wouldn't put that on a rookie. That expectation on a rookie a day after he was drafted, he's going to be the starting safety. That's a little much. We still have to see rookie minicamp, OTAs, and training camp. Maybe he does leapfrog his way into contention. But even Malik, who was one of the best safeties in football as a rookie last year, didn't start in week 1. Still took him a few weeks of the regular season to get worked into the mix. Right now, up on the San Francisco Standard, we've got our biggest, and this is the biggest and most in-depth 49ers draft breakdown that there is anywhere. You should check it out. The link is in the description. We go through the common theme of the 49ers 2025 draft class. They are all dogs, especially the guys on the defensive side of the ball. I think I asked this to RJ Gillen, one of the 49ers personnel guys. Are you looking for, shorter yet stronger defensive backs or guys in the back seven? Because that was the theme across all of these players, from Nick Martin to Upton Stout, moving to Siegel, right? Marquise Siegel. He said they're not necessarily looking for the smaller guys, even though it does seem that way. But they are looking for redemptive traits if a guy is smaller. And a lot of times that manifests itself in the bench press and strength. So small yet really strong guys. And then I've just put 2 and 2 together. That's the type of player that has a real chip on his shoulder. That's the type of player that goes and calls himself a dog multiple times. And that's who the 49ers want. They want players who are like Diamondo Lenore on the back end. He has turned into their guidepost, into the pillar of the back end. And the prospects whom the 49ers try to bring in seem to emulate Diamondo Lenore from both a physical perspective and a mentality perspective. Mike, if you could send me the Upton Stout video, just him I think him talking to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, that'd be awesome. And I'm going to play that because it fits in really well with this. I just thought that this was the emblematic part of this 2025 draft for the 49ers. You got CJ West, who's 316 pounds, calling himself a dog, right after Upton Stout, who's 180 pounds, calling himself a dog multiple times. And CJ West then finished up by saying, I just abuse centers, punch them in the face, be as violent as possible. The 49ers simply just want these scrappy, violent guys on defense because they were terrible on run defense last year. So when they were as bad as they were on run defense, when they were getting bullied, and that's the one thing you can't have happen to you is get bullied in football. If a team can run on you, well, just remember how the Packers probably felt in the 2019 season NFC Championship game when the 49ers just ran all over them and only had to pass 8 times all game. If team can run at will on you, they don't have to do anything else to beat you. And then you're completely screwed. This is a physical sport. And if you lose at the most indicative juncture of football, which is running the game, which is running the ball, if you lose at that juncture, everything else ceases to matter. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Offensively, it's the same thing for the 49ers. If they can run the ball, they dominate, right? They can run the ball, they won't even try to pass it. There's no reason to. They simply pass the football so that they can have the room to run, because the run game is how they control flow. In a way, Kyle Shanahan was zagging while the rest of the league was zigging for a while, but I think the rest of the league is starting to catch on to that mentality, and you've seen the renaissance of the running back. But and because you've seen the renaissance of the running back, the 49ers have to be equipped to stop running backs, to stop running games, and they weren't last year when they finished number 29 in the run game. And stopping the run game is a challenge of manhood. If you're not ready to be violent, if you're not ready to just muscle up and go through some discomfort, if you're not competitive enough to step up and puff out your chest and do the job, you're going to get run over in this sport, especially with the way that the league is trending, starting to adopt the 49ers running principles. So that's why the 49ers went for this personality type. guys that like to abuse centers, punch them in the face, be as violent as possible. And that's really what I wrote all about on the San Francisco Standard. That is the guy who likes to abuse centers, CJ West. He also, on his Instagram, CJ West, his bio is, I hate quarterbacks, all caps. He hates QBs. You can tell here. He thinks that, I mean, I know that he's just going through sleds and through blocking dummies and at the NFL Combine, but he's closing his eyes and he's pretending that it's a quarterback, and he hates it. And he's dominating it in the drills at the NFL Combine. And how do we know that he's dominating at the NFL Combine? Well, you look at the relative athletic score, 9.16 for CJ West is elite, and the 49ers now have him as part of this football team. You know, we went through the entire draft class yesterday. We had the big video going through the entire draft class yesterday, and the first 5 picks for the 49ers, all defensive players. It's the first time since 1981 that San Francisco has picked 5 defensive players amongst the first 5 picks. In 1981, the 49ers were able to net Ronnie Lott. And it wasn't just Ronnie Lott that the 49ers grabbed in 1981. Let's go through the 5 picks. He was the first one. He was pick number 8. Then they picked a nose tackle in the second round, John Hardy. He was in the NFL until 1986, out of Iowa, actually. Eric Wright, defensive back in the second round as well. They had 2 second-round picks that year. Carlton Williamson, another defensive back. He was in the 3rd round for the 49ers out of Pitt. Another Pitt player, another Pitt DB was Lynn Thomas, who was Carlton Williamson's teammate. He went in the 5th round to San Francisco. So it was Lott, Hardy, Wright, Williamson, and Thomas. Obviously, Lott, Wright, and Williamson formed the basis of an awesome secondary that turned the 49ers into a Super Bowl champion immediately. Meanwhile, you compare it to what San Francisco has done this year, and I guess still doing. They might not be done in undrafted free agency yet, but the roster is almost full. They've got 89 out of 90 spots filled right now. They decided that, and it was obvious, they decided, though, that the defensive line is what needed most work heading into the season. So Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, Upton Stout, CJ West were the 5 defensive picks to open this draft, with 3 of those 5 picks going to the defensive line. 2 defensive tackles, 1 edge rusher. All of them very, very good run stoppers, and that's the biggest weakness of this 49ers team that they needed to address. Anyway, it is imperative that you head to the San Francisco Standard. Here's the article. We, as you can tell, extremely, extremely thorough. And this, if you need to catch up, and I think you do, because this was one of the most critical 49ers draft classes in recent memory. And if you need to catch up on all 11 picks, they had more picks than any other team in the NFL. And they, except for the Ravens, who also had 11, and they did not trade. They just went straight up with this draft. They picked 11 players who they thought are going to fit well into this building. And here's one of them. That's Jordan James, the running back. That guy will run through your face. That is a tough running back. The fast receiver, Jordan Watkins, and of course, CJ West, the defensive tackle on day 3. So you should absolutely sign up for the Standard. It is in the description. I'll put it in and pin it onto the comment section. This is going to be your most in-depth 49ers coverage that there is. 6 more players added to the 49ers today or yesterday, right after the draft, including Isaiah Neyor, the wildly athletic wide receiver, Jakob Robinson, DB out of BYU, Sebastian Valdez, another defensive tackle out of Washington, Corey Kiner, the running back out of Cincinnati, he was in our mock draft, Drew Moss, the guard out of Colorado State, and Stone Blanton, the linebacker out of Mississippi State. All right, we got the video right here. I think this is going to be very, very worth playing. This is from Mike. This is yesterday. This is going to be Upton Stout. And, you know, when we talk about common theme, dogs, well, Upton Stout, 49ers new nickelback, I think embodies that more than any player who's ever entered the NFL. Well, if you want evidence of that, just listen to this.
Upton, it's John Lynch from the Niners, man. How you doing? Man, let's do it,
Let's
Coach.
do it. I didn't even have to ask you. I tell you.
Let's do it, Coach.
We're ready to do it, man.
Let's do it, Coach. Come on, Coach.
I love
Let's do it.
I love it. I'm going to put you on with Coach. Here's
Come
Coach
on,
Shanahan,
Coach.
man.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it, Coach. I'm telling you, let's
Upton, what's
do
up,
it,
man?
Coach. You
You
don't know
ready?
what you just got, Coach. You just got a dog.
Oh, we know that, man. All we got to do is see this tape. We know we got a
So
dog,
you just got a dog, Coach. I promise you just got a dog, Coach.
Dude, that fires me up, man. We've been waiting all
Man,
day,
let's
and
do
we
it,
feel
Coach.
fortunate to
That's what
get you,
I
man.
want to be, Coach. Come on.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about, man. Congratulations. Enjoy this night, man.
Thank
We can't
you,
wait
Coach.
to get you out
Yes,
here,
sir.
dude.
Yes,
You just
sir.
fired me up
Appreciate
even more, man.
Come on, Coach.
All
Let's
right,
do it.
man. Here's our owner, Jed
Come
York,
on.
dude. Congrats, man.
Yes, sir.
Upton, congratulations, man.
Man, appreciate it, Coach. Thank God. Appreciate you, Coach.
We know we got a dog. We're ready to
Come
see you,
on now.
man.
You know it, Coach. You know you got a dog. You got the best DB.
I know. We got it, man. We're fired up. Everybody in here's fired up. Can't wait to get you out here soon, man.
Let's do it on three. 1, 2, 3.
Let's do it. All right. We'll have the coaches call you later on, Upton. You have fun tonight with your family.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
All right, that's Upton Stout. So that's the common theme of the 49ers draft class. They wanted to add some dogs. They wanted to revitalize a defense that had fallen off. And they were able to get a couple offensive players. I mean, the biggest issue with this team was the run defense. They've, I think, made big strides in trying to address that. The next biggest issue was offensive separation. They're going to get Ayuk back. They got rid of Deebo Samuel. Pearsall, hopefully for them, will take the next step. And they added Jordan Watkins. He's a speedster. They feel that can add separation. The next biggest issue was special teams. They've obviously overhauled leadership there. And then the last pick was a nod to special teams in Junior Bergen. Got 8 punt returns for a touchdown. I think he returned like 20-something punts last year for Montana, and something like 4 of them were touched. Something insane for Junior Bergen last year. Might have been an even better ratio. Jeff Deeney posted it on Twitter. I have to get this stat. It was a really, really good one. It was like a wow stat for Junior Bergen. Right here. 10 punt returns last season, 3 for touchdowns. Yeah, even better. 8 total punt return TDs his last 3 seasons, 16.6 yard average per return over his collegiate career. Also has 1 kickoff return for a TD. With the increase in kick returns this year, this was a smart selection. So that was the 49ers' final pick in the 7th round. Junior Bergen has the FCS record with 8 career punt returns for touchdowns. Crazy story with that one is that Brant Boyer is the 49ers' new special teams coordinator, and Colt Anderson, both have Montana ties. Anderson's actually from Montana. Boyer just hunts there in the offseason. But that's how they discovered Junior Bergen out of SCS, University of Montana. And they were like, this guy can return. He can play. And so the 49ers took the rather unusual path of drafting just a strict return specialist. They even straight up said yesterday, this guy's probably not going to make the team as a receiver. If he makes the team, it's going to be as a punt returner. So we'll see how he does. We'll see if they end up having the roster room to be able to absorb that. But I think that, especially as Jeff Deeney of PFF said, with the kick returns probably becoming more prevalent with the new touchback rule, they're moving the ball 5 yards more on touchbacks. So there are probably going to be more returns happening this year. And with punt returns being such a potentially calamitous play, the 49ers haven't been getting anything positive out of punt returns lately. They've only been suffering negatives out of punt returns. But with the punt return being this play that it's got such a big potential downside, you have got to get a good guy in there. It's something, 49ers fans know the name Kyle Williams. They also know about Darrell Luter and how the ball, that this was a lot tougher break for Luter, but it hit off his leg in the Super Bowl. It's become a problem for the 49ers. You really want to make sure that you have special teams in that position in particular shored up. So Junior Bergen was the 49ers' last pick, discovered out of Montana by Brant Boyer and his assistant, Colt Anderson. Good numbers there from Jeff Deeney, right? As the 49ers added and took care of, I go back to the 3 pillars, the 3 weaknesses that they had to strengthen over the course of this season. Run defense, offensive receiver separation, special teams. All 3 of those were very, very directly addressed by the 49ers in this NFL draft. And then, those of you, the OGs here who've been following along for a while, welcome to new subscribers to the channel. You're all appreciated. But those of you who've been following along for a while, you know that when we looked at this roster before the draft, there was red everywhere, and red means roster hole. Red everywhere has now been replaced in all but one spot, swing tackle. And I think the 49ers may add a veteran at swing tackle. They may. Jedrick Willis Jr. is a name to watch for the 49ers to add at swing tackle. They've had more success adding free agents than they've had drafting offensive linemen. Dominic Pooney, obviously not part of that trend. Dominic Pooney was a successful add for the 49ers last year. They've added another athletic offensive guard this year in Connor Colby in the 7th round. I asked RJ Gillen and the guys yesterday, the scouting guys, if they were surprised that Colby was available in the 7th round. And they said yes. They thought that with an athletic profile like this, I mean, Jarrett Kingston went in the 6th last year. With an athletic profile like this, they thought that Connor Colby would have been scooped up by the time that the 49ers had one of those 3 7th-round picks. But no, he wasn't. They're able to get him. I project him to make the 53. One thing about Iowa offensive linemen is that they're going to be very, very well coached. There's Colby right there on the 53-man projection. They know how to block in Iowa. They know how to run block, especially in Iowa, because they run all the time. Some would say that they run excessively. It's like an old school 1930s offense over there for the Hawkeyes. So Connor Colby definitely has some run blocking polish and instruction from that coaching staff that I think is invaluable to the 49ers. I mean, remember how they got George Kittle? He came out of Iowa. He caught like 30 or 40 passes in his entire college career. They loved him because he was polished as a run blocker, which has been huge for his NFL career with the 49ers. And they saw the athletic traits, which were epic. And they said, this guy can develop as a receiver, even if he didn't catch the football all too often at Iowa. So same thing with Connor Colby. You're not looking for him to be a tight end, but you're looking at the run blocking finesse, the coaching, just the development. Where's he at in terms of that? And I think they're confident to make a good projection with Connor Colby. All right, I'm going to answer a couple questions, and then I'm going to get going. Unless Mike says I should stay on for a little bit longer. Mike has something from a Packers fan on Upton Stout. I don't know where Mike got this, but we're going to read it because I like Upton Stout projections. Who would be for me going to Western Kentucky, Upton Stout's college, and talking to the coaching staff there in person, and maybe to Upton Stout himself? Raise your hand. A lot of people just sit in their basement, do their YouTube videos, and write a few articles, do whatever. I like to actually travel and go to places. I'm going to go to Western Kentucky and get the backstory on Upton Stout. If you guys give me the thumbs up, we'll do a cool video from his school there too. Give me the thumbs up in the comment section. Channel is going to move on location. Hell, why don't we just travel to all 11 schools, all these draft picks, all 17 schools, maybe 16 because they doubled up on Indiana. I think I should go to Indiana as well. 2 players from Indiana, CJ West, Curtis Rourke, the quarterback. Yeah, give me the thumbs up and we'll make the scouting trip. But anyway, from a Packers fan on Upton Stout, some of the most fun tape of any prospect this year. If he had average cornerback size, he would be a high first-round pick. Does everything well and plays extremely fast. He's also a very willing tackler for his size. Yeah, I knew that when I saw the tape. Oh, my gosh. Holy smokes. First couple plays, he is just bursting into the backfield, taking down guys 30 pounds heavier than him. I was talking to the guy I get scout tape from, and he described him as a heat-seeking missile, and I love that description. If he can stay healthy, he's an aggressive tackler, and that might cause him some problems at his size. I expect him to be a stud. That's a good call-out. 5'8", 180. Stout's going to have to find a way to protect his body as much as possible at the NFL level. Good scouting report. Good way to finish it. The 49ers have a bunch of dogs. That's who they added on the defensive side of the ball. I think that Upton Stout definitely fits into that description for San Francisco. Good. We got a bunch of thumbs up. I will be going to Western Kentucky then. I'll fulfill my promise. And, final thing on this draft, we don't know if it's a good draft or a bad draft. Well, now, I mean, people making these declarative statements, anybody who's coming out with draft grades, you should be really suspicious of them. If somebody comes out with draft grades, they don't really know what they're talking about. They're just trying to get a bunch of clicks out of you because we don't know how this draft is going to pan out in the future. All we can talk about is the strategy behind the draft. And I explained the strategy. I showed you what the 49ers were trying to do. And there's a reason why it's a crapshoot, right? There's a reason why we treat it as a crapshoot. We don't pretend to know more than we do. We look at this from a strategy angle, and now we see how these players are going to develop in the NFL. 49ers had their fingers crossed that this turns into the 1986 draft all over again. Everybody hit the sub button. Go check out the San Francisco Standard one more time. I'll put it up on the screen. Go read about a bunch of dogs that the 49ers drafted for the defensive side of the ball. All right, guys, take care. It's been fun.